right here. All right. It looks like we're live. Hey, everybody. Joey here from Indie Law, and I'm here with an awesome guest, Jim Jesse. All right. It looks like we're live. Hey, everybody. Joey here already from Indie starting Law, off to a bad awesome guest place. There we go. Man, this thing always changing. But we'll do this again. Hey, everybody. The nice thing about doing this live like this is I can just put up the beginning and start whenever I want. Guys, I'm really excited about this. This morning we have Jim Jesse on, and Jim is the rock and roll law guru. Jim, I'm so excited to have you on. Real quick, I'm going to give a little blurb about Jim and then let him share what he's doing. And Jim, while I say this, feel free to head on over to Facebook and share this video if you can find it on my Indie Law page. So Jim has been an attorney for 24 years. He's the former general counsel for Cool Music Network, which is a 24-hour-a-day music video television network. He previously was in private practice. He founded Rock and Roll Law, and his passion is spreading music law through his seminars. Thousands of attorneys have taken his courses, and he's conducted his music law course now in many states. He's also a singer and songwriter who has released 2 albums, Down on the South Side and Better Late Than Never. He has written songs for more than 30 years, has more than 200 songs he's never released. He's also the author of the Music Copyright Law Manual, which I want to link up to later, and also the forthcoming The Musician's Guide to Music Copyright Law. Jim consults and practices in areas regarding intellectual property, licensing, and music law. He's drafted and reviewed hundreds of contracts, from small barter deals to multi-million-dollar ones. So, Jim, awesome to have you. Why don't you share your story with
Great to be here. Thanks, Joey. Appreciate it. You know, that's a good intro. I don't have a whole lot to add, but basically, look, I've loved music my whole life. Like I said, I've been writing songs prior to even when I was a lawyer, and sort of eventually wed the fact that I am a lawyer with my passion for music and the fact that I also write songs and release them. So I come at this from a creator standpoint. You know, what do I have here in my music? What copyrights do I have? How do I protect them? Where does the money come from, et cetera? So I've just studied this area of law over the years, and just, it is my passion. I also go around the country teaching courses, mainly to lawyers, although musicians, frankly, are the ones that need the course, but lawyers need continuing ed. So musicians are always welcome at my courses. In fact, I'm going to be in Chicago a week from today, June 2nd, and St. Louis, June 9th. If anyone wants more info, just go to my website. So that's my passion. And frankly, most of these courses, I don't know, Joey, maybe you've been to some continuing ed courses for lawyers. They're quite boring. But
they really are.
Music law, this is not something. I play music and interviews and videos. I mean, I just think it's a fascinating topic. You really have to try to make it boring, and mine is not boring. So it's just an informative and entertaining class. And I think you learn more if you're engaged. So it's great to be here. Hopefully your listeners will learn a few things today.
Yeah, I'm sure that they will. They were. I know that my group is really excited to have you, Jim. So let's see here. Let me make sure that I'm pulling up the video and that it's shared in my. I know that my group is really excited to have you, Jim. And all right, so let's see if I can. I just want to make sure that if I can get to it live and see if any comments are coming through.
No worries.
But it looks like people are watching, so we'll keep going.
Cool.
All right, so Jim, one of the first questions that I had for you is, and this is a question I get a lot, is how many lines of a song can you legally put on an item like a shirt, and what are all the laws around that question?
You know, that's a great question. I mean, there's no definitive answer, but lyrics are copyrighted material, so if you're going to put something on a shirt or a website, I would be careful with that. I mean, I generally say the answer is 0 lines, but if you take a part of a verse from a 20-verse song and you just throw it on a T-shirt, I mean, you're probably not going to get caught. No one's going to raise an issue. Now, if you start selling these online and advertising it, that might be a different thing. If you put holes, I mean, we've all been to websites with song lyrics, and most of those don't have permission. I mean, you put whole song lyrics on websites, that's a no-no. I mean, you could argue something called fair use, but fair use is kind of a squishy defense.
Yep.
So I'd say it's better to get permission from the publisher / songwriter. I mean, you're probably fine with a word or two or a phrase, but a whole line or a verse, you might be getting into problems there.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, what I'm seeing is people, and they think that, well, here's a popular song lyric that if I put on something will help kind of promote that I'm doing that. And my recommendation, and also like the business coaches that I've talked to, has said that that's not really using your creativity as a business owner or as a creative to put something out there. And so if that is going to be your industry, and this is going to be more than just a side hobby where you are making a lot of sales on this online, this is really something that you should need to think about. Jim, what do you think about if people, maybe they take, like a popular line from a song, but then they kind of paraphrase it, or they like make it like a word / definition thing, but you can tell that it's inspired from a song lyric.
Yeah, that may not be as bad, frankly. And again, it depends what line you're taking from. I mean, I was listening to an interview with the band Portugal the Man, and they used this line from an Oasis song, and they used it in their song, I Want to Live Forever. Oasis has a song called Live Forever. And I thought, gee, and they got permission to do it. And I thought, that's a pretty generic line. I don't think you need permission to say, I want to live forever. You know what I'm saying? Or I love you, I miss you. You can't copyright very, very generic phrases like that. So yeah, if you take something and sort of tweak it on your own, you're probably fine with that, particularly if it's pretty generic.
Okay, that makes sense. So the more generic it is, and the less that you're kind of leaning on the popularity of that phrase to help you,
right?
The better. Okay.
Now, if there's certain phrases, like Taylor Swift's attempting to trademark, like, I don't know, a bunch of phrases from her 1989 album, and she's got I'm sure a legal team on it, that are unique to that album, then you're probably in trouble.
Yeah. Right.
But if it's just a pretty generic, phrase that it may even be hard to tell what song it's from, then you're probably fine.
This is super helpful. What I plan on doing is cutting out just that part of this video so far, so that whenever anybody asks me about this, I can just direct them to that clip.
Just hit play.
That's perfect. Thank you.
I will say this. I mean, obviously, just a disclaimer before we start. I mean, you and I are both lawyers. I mean, this is generic legal advice. Every case varies, so your case may vary. So, take what I say as a generic. Your case may vary, and I'm sure you understand that. Just a little disclaimer before we get started that don't depend on, well, Jim Jesse said it was all right.
Oh yeah, no. I mean, definitely. I mean, all of this is just general information.
Actually, absolutely. And I do a podcast, and I always say that before I start talking with another lawyer, and most people understand that. But
totally.
At least it gives you a framework. My purpose here this morning is give people a framework to which to analyze these things in their own particular case.
No, that's great. And I mean, I'm with you, and that's very well said, because I think that sometimes giving that legal disclaimer can be really off-putting. The technical disclaimer that we should be giving is super long and boring sounding. Yeah. But the main gist is you guys, just take this for this just being general stuff to help you guys out, to let you think of things. If this is something that is really affecting your business and you have to make a decision about this, and you would be relying on what we're telling you now to do otherwise, then grab a consultation call with an attorney.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more.
Awesome. So again, kind of speaking generally, when there really is something that you want to use, let's say that you your market really well, you're building a product. Let's say it's like a wooden, those like cute wooden signs that are trending now, kind of like rustic looking, and you got to deal with Target or Whole World Market or, one of those bigger brands that sells those things, and you want to use something, your market well, that if you could get permission from the musician to use it, that it would be worth it in that instance and it could really help you. How would you go about getting that permission? Is it as easy as just figuring out what their email is?
Well, you'd have to find, it depends what you're using, but in general, if you're using lyrics or the song composition itself, you would find the musician or you probably have to contact what is called their publisher, who handles the music rights. And, some of these are big companies and may be difficult to get a hold of people, and work out what is called a license to do whatever you want to do. Now, in most instances, that license is negotiable. Maybe you give them a cut of your product. Maybe there's a flat fee. It's sort of all negotiable. What kind of territories is covering, how long does the license last, et cetera. So the simplest answer is contact the publisher and try to work out a deal. No set rate, just negotiate. And
if you do think that it's kind of beyond that generic line, where it's something that could be kind of gray territory in the copyright infringement, in general, it can be good to reach out there and just ask their permission to the extent that permission is needed.
Yeah. Now, I will say this: it's probably going to be a hassle if you can even get through to the publisher, and they may ask for a ton of money that you can't afford. So, just
kind of a case
that caveat.
Yeah.
But
okay, well, that's helpful, and again, it kind of shows that if this is a direction that you want to take your business in, it's not easy. It's not like there's just a database of numbers you can call with list pricing.
There's 3 major publishers in the U.S. for the 3 major labels: Sony Entertainment, Warner Chappell, and Universal Music Group. Mm-hmm. So I'd say the easier thing is to go through indie artists who probably own their own publishing, and it's going to be cheaper. There's websites too, I will add, there's music library websites where you can get cheap songs, or there's a website called Creative Commons where artists just donate, basically give away their song, and basically say, all right, anyone can use this. This is in the public domain. So go to creativecommons.com for more info on that.
Awesome. Yeah. And I'll put a link to Creative Commons. That's actually a really great segue to my next question, which is, what are your go-to recommendations for using, audio for, video or podcasting or something that your business is doing for branding purposes?
Well, from the cheaper to the most expensive. It's always easier to just create the stuff yourself, or hire someone to do it cheaply, a friend of yours. Hey, can you make some music for this for me? I'll pay you. I'll give you some beer or whatever. I'll pay you a little bit.
Right.
Work for hire. So that's the best. Or you could, like I said, go to music libraries or Creative Commons, and then up to what we just discussed, getting licenses from the publishers or the big boys. That's hard to do. Look, the more popular a song is, the more well-known it is, the more expensive it's going to be. So don't, if you want to use Hey Jude in your podcast, good luck with that. Well, and also that leads us to, this is another topic, but for podcasting or stuff, you may need licenses with BMI or ASCAP, which are called performing rights organizations who handle licensing for the public performance of songs. I do a podcast. I don't have music on it for that reason. But maybe someday I might, do it. I
think it's a lot simpler to avoid the music when you're starting.
I agree. I'd love to have music on my podcast. I do music law. But I'm just like, what? At this point, it's just not worth it. Although I actually want to try to do it just to see how much of a hassle and how expensive it'd be.
Sure. How long have you been podcasting for, Jim?
Just a few months. I just started doing it. If people want to listen, there's a couple actually on legal issues, trademarks, what musicians need to know about trademarks. Just go to soundcloud.com/rock and roll law and find it, or search rock and roll law at SoundCloud and you'll find it.
That's really cool. So let's back up a little bit. When I know that you give tons of presentations on copyright and music and licensing and trademarks, when you're up and you start talking about copyrights and trademarks to an audience that is not familiar with those topics or doesn't really understand, what's your kind of like copyright 101 pitch?
Oh man. And by the way, most people don't understand it, even lawyers.
Yeah.
It's a very niche area. I think if you're a musician, again, mine is tailored to music law. So my one, thing is, once you record a song, first of all, you don't have a copyright until you record something because it has to be in a tangible form.
Right.
And then I'd say if you understand one thing about music, it's this. When you record a song, there are 2 copyrights, 2 in every song, the song itself, the composition, and then what is called the sound recording, often referred to as the master recording. Okay, those are separate copyrights. They potentially have separate authors / owners. If you understand that, and by the way, separate revenue streams, if you just know that exists, I think you go a long way to understanding about music copyright law.
That's really interesting. Okay.
And most musicians don't know this, I don't think.
That's really interesting. And what are the negative consequences of not understanding how this works?
Well, most people realize, okay, we've got songs, someone wrote the songs, the songs can generate revenue. But the sound recordings or masters, they don't know about. Well, if you don't know about them, A, you haven't hashed out who's the author of them, and that can create problems. And then B, you are missing out on revenue, potentially revenue from, from those playing. There's an entity called Sound Exchange that collects the public performance of master recordings. Okay, go to soundexchange.com for more info on that. So if you don't know that this copyright exists, you're probably oblivious to the fact that you're potentially generating revenue out there. So that's the consequence. You're missing out on potential revenue.
Wow, that's a huge thing that they should know about.
I'll tell you a quick story. There's an artist who did children's music that was played on children's music, apparently kills it on Pandora. And he finally learned about this, Sound Exchange and signed up, and he had like $10,000 in there.
Wow.
Of course, I signed up for Sound Exchange. I had $0 in there, but whatever, whatever. But just know it's out there.
Well, and so I want to bring that back up too, because you went on Sound Exchange. You've made music in the past.
Yes.
And I don't want to lose sight of that. Like, did you become a lawyer first before you started your music?
Yeah. I've written songs before I was a lawyer, but I didn't start recording them until after I had graduated from law school.
Interesting. And so
right after this, Joey, I'm going to the studio.
Really? I love it. And you've got 2 albums out now, right?
Yeah, working on a 3rd. And they're on Spotify, iTunes.
Oh, awesome! I'll have to check them out. I'll link those up too. This is really
cool. Jim Jesse, you'll find them. Although there's this bluegrass duo called Jim and Jesse that kind of gets in the way of my search.
Bluegrass.
But anyway, so just search my name. You'll find.
That's really cool. Now, do you? And obviously, you like rock and roll. What is your what's your typical playlist look like on Spotify?
Oh, that's a good question. I like a lot of kinds of music. I'd say it generally tends towards, particularly the older I get, I guess I'm mellowing out a little bit more young, acoustic folk pop, I guess I'd say.
That's like
I like melodies. I like songs. Springsteen, Neil Young, Sheryl Crow, artists like that.
Yeah. No, same. That's exactly lately I've just been really into the folk Americana type thing.
Yeah. But I like a lot of music. Probably my 3 favorite artists are U2, REM, and Springsteen.
Awesome. Very, very cool. And let's see. Oh, one of the questions that I had, and I know that we talked about this before we went live. What is it about copyright? I know that you said that there's the songs that are recorded, and obviously if there are lyrics to the songs and that text gets attached, but where does that stop? For example, I have Brooke Alam, who hopefully is joining. If not, I'll link her up. But she has a really cool business and an interesting idea. What if you take the sound wave of a song and you turn that into artwork, are there any potential copyright violations there? Because that's a really interesting way of
that's an interesting question. I've and never really been asked that before. I mean, the sound waves are not part of the. I mean, they represent the song. I mean, I guess they're copyrightable as art,
as a design,
as like a picture or skull, kind
of graphic of it.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess if she's taking them literally from a song, I don't know. I guess if she really wants to be safe, I think she's fine probably doing that, because it'd be hard. Yeah, like who knows from what song it's from? You know, if it's just waves, going up and down. But she may want to alter it slightly just so that she's kind of created her own work if she wants to be super safe. But just because, look, you see lyrics from a song, it's from a particular song. You hear something, you're like, all right, that's that song. But you just look at waves, you're like, oh, that's Hey Jude or whatever. No, you were not going to know anything. No. So I think she's cool.
Okay, cool. But I like what you said that it can be protected as copyright because, on my end of, working with artists is that if your artwork is really, really basic, like if it's just the word hello in Helvetica, that's probably not going to give you any copyright protection. And so, I really like this idea of being creative and like stretching music and making it visual, but don't stop there and apply creativity to the design of it so that it's not just the sound wave, but it's also in a certain color scheme, or it has like design elements, or there's like a picture using negative space. There's a lot of things you can do that make it more of something that you own versus you just taking something from someone else. And
absolutely add to it, add some creativity to it. Absolutely.
Very cool. Well, let me see. It doesn't look like we have any questions, which I expect. We have Jeremiah who asks again, how do you find Jim on Spotify? But you said that you can just search Jim Jesse and ignore the...
Search me, ignore the bluegrass duo Jim and Jesse. And, I have 2 albums, Better Late Than Never and Down on the South Side. You could probably find those. But yeah, that's how you do it. By the way, that brings up a good point. If you're starting a band name or make it an original name that is, again, it's hard to do that, but make it original so that your searches come up pretty easily. Now, there's tons of bands out there, and you probably should trademark your band name.
Great question.
And make sure that no one else has the same name.
So trademark your brand name is, I think, a really good piece of advice there. And let's talk a little bit about trademarks. So people in my group, they've been following. I've talked about this a little bit. So you should understand that the song title is not included in what's copyrighted.
Generally not. Lots of songs have the same title. So you'll probably find that if you have a same or similar song title, now again, if a song's really unique title, I would avoid having your song called that. And they could have a trademark over it. So you should probably check that out. But most songs do not.
Great. And if you're creative and again, like you're in that space where you're maybe a handmade seller and you're using the popularity of songs in some way in your business, or even like in promotional, ads or whatever, the more generic that song title is, the safer it is for you to use.
Yeah, I would say so. Again, every case is different, what you're using it for. It's always best to create your own stuff. Maybe you get an idea from something. Look, all music's derivative, okay? We're influenced by things, but to put your own spin on it or create something original from something else is always the best answer.
I like that a lot. And I think that really goes back to a lot of this is you have to keep creating new things as a business owner if you're in this world, if your business relies on your creativity. And I think it's so easy right now to copy and paste things in different senses. And yes, that can be helpful as a business owner, but resist the temptation to just plug and play as an artist.
Absolutely. Look, yeah, exactly. We're in a world where You can copy and paste anything almost. Of course, the problem with that is it's usually copyrighted material you're doing it with, but it's always best to create your own or to hire someone to create something for you.
Great.
And, as a creator, it's best to own what you create as well. I mean, that's my bottom line in my creators. Own what you create, because if you own it, you can one, control it, and two, make money from it potentially.
I love it. Jim, before we sign off real quickly, can you talk a little bit and clarify what it means to register your copyrights?
Okay. So as I think we mentioned earlier, once you create something, you have a copyright. Okay. The law says it has to be in a tangible form. So if with music or, you write lyrics on a piece of paper, music, you record it, it's on your computer or, a CD or a tape, whatever, you have a copyright. But there's some good to legally register it. You need to go to copyright.gov, fill out the form, create a username and a password and fill out the form. Now the form varies depending on what you're copyrighting. If it's lyrics, it'd be form TX,
okay,
which is a literary work. If it's the song itself, it'd be form PA. If it's the master recording, it'd be form SR. If it's both the master and the song, it's form SR. But again, that provides an extra layer of legal protection. And by the way, the most important thing is you cannot sue somebody if they've ripped off your work unless it's registered with the Copyright Office. So it's not expensive. It's $55 per registration to do it for one work. And it's possible, by the way, to copyright an entire album as a collective work if you're the only one that created it. Yep. So it's a small price to pay for an extra layer of legal protection.
I think it's great. And you mentioned that you can protect the lyrics. So does that mean that if you have a song with lyrics in it and you want to protect the lyrics, then that's 3 layers of copyright protection? Yeah.
Now, most people don't do this. Let's say you never copyright the lyrics separately. Once the song is wed with the lyrics, that's how it's going to be. So if you have someone who just writes the lyrics and someone who writes the song and you merge the two, that's the work. Okay. So that's going to be credited as both. Now, if you write lyrics separately, you could copyright them, and then you could just claim them as your own because you've copyrighted them separately from the song. But once you've wed the lyrics with the song, that's how it's going to be, for better or worse.
Awesome, great. Well, I think that's a really helpful clarification. I'm seeing some questions that are being asked that I think if we circle back to the beginning of the video, they'd watch. So I think that's a pretty good ending place. But Jim, I want to give you a chance to kind of promote everything that you've got going on. I know that you're busy. You said that you're leaving to go into the studio later today. What's that for?
Just recording songs for a 3rd album. So stay tuned for that. Eventually I'll get this website up, jimjesse.com. That's just my music. So again, rockandrolllaw.com for the book and for upcoming courses. Like I said, June 2nd, I'm in Chicago, June 9th, St. Louis. And then there's other dates. You can go to the website. So, and again, I'm always happy to talk to musicians or artists. My contacts info is on my website. So if people want to reach out to me or you can provide it, I'm happy to talk to them and at least show them in the right direction.
That's great. And are you taking on clients
Absolutely.
Great. Awesome. Well, Jim, this has been really, really helpful. I know I've learned a lot. I'm sure that people in my group did as well, but this has been a really great conversation. I appreciate you spending the morning with me.
Joey, absolute pleasure. Honor to be here. Thank you to you and all your listeners.
All right. Well, you guys, we'll catch you guys soon. And Jim, thanks again. We'll do this again. Bye.
Keep rocking.